tea or coffee?
Coffee.
Straight giveaway on the table. Are you a beach holiday fan or a city break fan?
Yes. So I like both. I do, and it depends what, it does depend at what sort of frame of mind I'm in. But yeah, I just like travel. I like new places, but I dive, so beach holidays work well in that respect. Nice.
Yeah. So diving is what, Egypt or Australia?
Go to Egypt, yeah. A little bit off Mauritius. Dived in Croatia, but also the UK. Dive in the UK as well.
Okay, very good. Mauritius is one of my favourite places in the world. Got a soft place in my heart for Mauritius. For one of our sins of filming and production, we were sent there for 4 weeks to film a load of music videos.
It's really difficult.
It's a tough life. Cats or dogs?
Dogs.
Dogs? Mm-hmm. Okay, good. Netflix binge watch or board games?
Board games.
Pineapple on your pizza?
No.
Okay. Early bird or night owl?
Early bird.
How early is early?
I'm up at 6:30 every morning for the dog. I'm usually awake before then. I function best in the first half of the day. Yeah,
so I mirror your sentiment. I function definitely as an early person.
Yeah.
Concert or comedy show?
Concert.
5-star hotel or camping?
Again, that really depends. I do camp a lot. I like camping.
Okay.
I've just come back from a bike festival. Camped there for 5 days. And I'm doing a music festival next week, and I'm there for a week. So nice. I'm camping for that. So I camp quite a lot, and I've got various different types of tent depending upon the type of camping.
Very good. Texting or talking?
Talking.
Excellent. Yeah. Good. Well, congratulations. You got 10 out of 10.
Thank you.
Well done. Good stuff. So, Mike, for our listeners, our watchers, tell us exactly what do you do and who do you serve?
What do I do? I make sense of digital strategy. And that's a deliberately open statement because I think everybody has a different view on what that actually means. And who I do it for are small to medium organisations and specifically focused on charities, membership organisations and awarding and accrediting bodies. And I do that mainly because there's a real need for them to have access to high quality thinking, but they generally can't afford it. And the way that they're set up in terms of their governance structures and the way that they access funding makes it very difficult for them to get access to that type of thinking, and yet the businesses undisputedly benefit from it the most. And so for me there's a cause behind it. I want to make sure that what I can do, what I deliver, is available and accessible to those organisations that really need it, as opposed to those that can just afford it.
Very good. So do you work strategically as a consultant, or do you actually, beyond the consultancy and beyond the strategy, do you actually work with them to deliver solutions?
Yeah, so it's a 3-phase approach. The first part is purely consultancy and go in and understand the business, how it's set up and the infrastructure behind it, the technology and how the tech speaks to all of the individual systems, how their processes work, what their people need, what their consumers or endpoint users need. Map that out and create a strategy for change. That's really the big piece right at the beginning, and then can work with that organisation to choose partners or vendors to supply change. So if they need a web development agency, I can work with them to identify what the requirements behind that selection process look like, and look at the contracts and help them review the competition and make a decision. And then because these businesses typically don't have the skills in-house, we will also work with them to deliver against that program as well. So we provide fractional leadership support to make sure that what we've said is achievable actually gets delivered as well.
Fantastic. What's just so we get an idea of scale, size, geography, and all of that good stuff? What's the makeup of the business? You know, what's the head count? Is it you? Is it a team? And the people you serve? Is it the Leeds area? Is it West Yorkshire? Is it national or beyond?
So Kingsbury is myself, and then I have 3 associate consultants who work alongside me. I can draw upon their skills for very specific areas, and that works exceptionally well, so that whilst they're not full-time employees, we have a contractual arrangement and they work on my behalf. So for the end client, there's a benefit because they're getting a blended rate. I own the commercial risk behind it. They only have to raise one invoice, interview one person, deal with one person, essentially. It gives Kingsbury a real depth of capability, which works exceptionally well. It means that we're able to call upon experts on a per project basis. So my overheads aren't particularly heavy in that respect. It is, you know, primarily just me leading from the front, and we have a very clear approach to how we're doing things. We have a proprietary framework that we work within, and that team of associates works within that framework. In terms of organisation, it's UK-wide. We could work with anybody, and in fairness, we could probably work in Europe, but a lot of the conversations that we're having at the moment are very much around data governance and compliance and regulatory compliance. And we have one of our associates is a specialist in that within the UK, and so you know, at the moment we are really targeting United Kingdom, but they could be anywhere. It's the beauty of the distributed teams approach that we see at the moment. You can be anywhere. So I have an associate in London, one in Milton Keynes, one in Edinburgh, one in Leeds that we're just onboarding at the moment as well. So we are everywhere. Our clients are essentially everywhere. Really, you know, it doesn't matter geographically where people are based.
Very good. So not looking at work in the business, but working on the business, what's the current challenges you're finding for your business, not your clients? What challenges are you experiencing, if any?
Yeah, I mean, I think they're probably the ones that everybody in my position experiences. I've done this. The Kingsbury has been running 6 months, and so as a new founder, you probably quite naively believe that you know enough to be able to run a business. And I've worked for other people for 30 years. I've got experience of seeing how other people do things. You take all of that and you bundle it into a package and you say, that's going to be my operating model. These are going to be my processes. And invariably on day one, you throw all of that out of the window. It just goes. So the biggest challenge really is trying to understand how the business actually operates on a day-to-day basis, because it does change quite regularly. And in some respect, I'm very fortunate in that I started Kingsbury with this really clear idea about the framework that we wanted to deliver, and a very clear set of values, which is leadership of authority through creative collaboration. So all of the decisions are based around, does it support the framework? Does it support that set of values? And I'm really keen on that as a decision-making process. Because I've seen, and you'll have had this conversation with people, values that get pinned to a wall and never read have no value whatsoever. And processes and frameworks that don't tie back to anything meaningful similarly have no value. So whilst the challenges I face are very much about what's coming next, how do we deal with it, how do we manage it, everything is done to support those two things. All of the decision making is done on the basis of the framework and the core set of values.
Very good. I was watching a podcast yesterday, and the founder was saying something really similar to that, because he goes, we can go into endless, meetings and we can have a progress update on lots of different things. And everyone, all the different team players can say, this is my progress update, which is great because everyone's busy and not unless you're hiding in the corner because you haven't done anything. But everyone's busy doing their piece. But he goes, the structure of our meetings is not like that. It's more aligned with what are our business strategic goals and how are we getting closer to achieving them strategic goals. Perfect. That's the update that he's put into his business. And I thought, what a great perspective.
So essentially, I am essentially a sole trader, although I have this team working alongside me in supporting. It's very clear from the outset that being a sole trader doesn't stop me from behaving like a large organisation. And actually, that's some of the underpinnings of what we're trying to do anyway. We're thinking like a large agency. We're thinking like a large consultancy. The quality of what we produce is large agency standards. It's just small agency pricing. But, that's a consequence of our being a small agency, not a consequence of the quality of the outcomes. And so that thinking means that operating like a big business means that I hold a board meeting, and that there is just me in it, but I represent each of the different business functions within Kingsbury,
of course, and
I have a different set of reports and they're just a single slide on each of the different business functions. So new business development and sales, and the existing client relationship health check, and the finances and things like that. But I have that laid out as a process that is something that is now in place already, and I think without that I would not be doing anywhere near as well as I am. Because it would be unstructured, and I wouldn't be able to see, where I wouldn't be able to check where I am against my strategic objectives. Everybody goes into this. You look for support. The banks and all the business support functions say you need to write a plan. What's your business plan? So you put down those strategic objectives, and the thing that everybody tells you, and we had this when I was on the Northern Max Business Accelerator. Business plan, everybody will write it and nobody will refer back to it. I disagree with that. That might be the truth, but I think that shouldn't be the case.
Fundamentally wrong.
Yeah, 100%. What's the purpose of having that? Yeah. The plan. It's Eisenhower, and I've said this before quite a lot. So the two things he's famous for. One is the decision-making matrix. Which is really valuable, but the other is this idea of planning is everything, plans are nothing. So the very act of planning has power. It gives you direction and purpose. You need to recognise that plan is going to change as soon as it's published. It's just a snapshot in time, but without referring back to it, you don't know how far it's changed, and you can't then make decisions based upon it. So refer back to it. Why would you? You've spent all that time and effort on saying, "This is what I'm going to do. This is what I'm going to achieve." How do you check back in on yourself and make sure that is something that you are doing? Where is your decision making process in that? If all you're doing is responding to what's immediately in front of you and not considering the future, then that's not a strategic approach. That's tactical and reactive.
Absolutely. Where's the benchmark? Where's the datum?
Yeah.
Where are you drawing that line to see, all right, this is the plan, and let's roll that out. And like you said, life happens, and the universe pushes you and pulls you into different directions. But then based on the plan, you can say yes, no, or do your best to maneuver and navigate through that journey. And some things are beyond your control. But the things that are in your control, you can check back against that plan and see, right, what does the plan guide us with regards to how to make these decisions to move forwards?
If I could predict the future, I wouldn't be working now. I would have predicted something that would have, allowed me to retire a long time ago. I can't predict the future. What I can do is make some very well-educated guesses, put forward some hypotheses based upon what I've seen happen previously, and then adapt and respond to change as and when it comes in. And that allows me to exercise a degree of control over the future. It's not perfect, it's not 100%, but nobody has that capacity.
Absolutely. So 6 months in.
Yep.
It's a new co. You're solopreneur. Is that how you position yourself?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's fair.
You're a founder.
Yep.
Is your challenge marketing and pipeline, or is your challenge something else? Just out of interest.
It's not marketing and pipeline because I'm so passionate about what I do that I literally have content, for want of a better word, coming out of my ears. I can talk about the work all day long, and I'm pretty good at getting it down on paper and then being able to turn that into usable output. The challenge is more the time it takes. We're talking about big ticket items, and even at the sort of the level that we pitch at, these are not snap decision purchases for businesses that can ill afford to make the wrong decision. And so the challenge really is the procurement cycle. The visibility is there. I think the engagement and the feedback that we've had to date has been exceptional. And it's just getting that and translating it into something else. And that something else at the moment is invoices. So we've got people in conversations. The pipeline's looking good. We have some clients. We could always have more clients. It's just trying to now keep up with the foundations that we laid at the beginning, and make sure that doing the work now that it's in doesn't detract from the fact that we need to keep going with the visibility and awareness side of things, because that will generate the next 6 months worth of work as well. So it's just trying to understand what that procurement life cycle looks like. It's longer than I anticipated, but it's not unmanageable either. So I knew that this was coming, and had prepared for it. And that's, I think that's the other thing. Try, be realistic, not always optimistic, but be realistic with it. So that, the challenge is just making sure that doing the work doesn't get in the way of building the future as well.
Absolutely, it's a fine balance, isn't it? Of making sure you don't get too busy in the business, and you carry on a good strategic amount of time working on the business is kind of crucial.
So one thing, and actually, so it is a very good point. One thing that, and I essentially highlighted it as part of my board meeting, not last month, but the month before. I'd done a huge amount of in-person networking, and got some, very good responses from it, and some really good opportunities have fallen out of that. But actually, not enough to warrant the volume of in-person networking that I've done. So if there's a learning for me, it is that I need to be more selective about the in-person events that I'm attending, and choose them far more carefully. And so that was interesting, because I've not networked to that extent before, and enjoyed it, and did get a lot out of it. But also it took a huge amount of time away from other aspects of running the business, and so I've had to be quite firm with myself and say these are the events, these are the people that you are engaging with, and there is value in that engagement, and these are the things where you're engaging, and it's useful, but it's not as valuable, and it's taking time away from other things. Core
activities that were your time would probably better spent elsewhere. It's a great point, that is. And I was watching something, was it just yesterday or the other day, and as our digital landscape continues to evolve and change, there was a person who was sharing his own kind of journey. He started his life in sales. He was on the phone doing telesales, and he's moved into the creator economy, making videos and sharing them on TikTok. And That seems to be a growing trend, and there's nothing alarming or nothing overly like wow or bizarre about that. It just feels like that's evolution of that kind of journey. But what was really interesting was he said at any one point I can be making a phone call. I can only speak to one person, so it's a one-to-one. And in a day, depending on the environment and what is selling, I might have 20 calls, I might do 200 calls, and so even that is very logical. But it goes on TikTok by making a video and putting it out. If it resonates with the right community and right audience, I can reach 200,000 people in one day. So one video, if I make one video every day, the reach for a salesperson, and I thought that was actually quite mind-blowing if you think about how the landscape has, and you talk about digital strategy, how the landscape has totally changed, but as well as the landscape changing, the mindset of the operator has changed, the opportunity to the operator and to the business has radically changed. And then it's about other businesses, can they see it, can they believe it, can they embrace it? Because that element of, I've seen that, it probably works for them, it won't work for me. That's probably something you come across in your experience of that digital change or just change management in itself.
Yeah, and also I've seen it, and it's why I've doubled down on the LinkedIn content. It's no longer just one or two posts a week, and those posts being random thoughts. I've actually built a strategy around that, and again tied that back to the core values of the organisation and the delivery framework and what it is that we're trying to achieve, and I'm promoting that purely through LinkedIn at the moment. Some podcast work, which obviously is why I'm sitting here, but because it's that there is a limit to my ability to reach multiple people at any given time. I can have very high quality one-to-one conversations with people, but the message behind Kingsbury, the principles and the underlying values behind Kingsbury, I need to be able to broadcast to a much broader audience more effectively. And so I've taken time away from some of the more broad networking events, which to some extent feel more like socials than actually business focused events, and devoted that into more valuable content generation. And actually that's really important as well. The content that I'm generating has some value. It's not just occasional thoughts on digital transformation or organisational change. They are all tied back to the core principles that we work to day in, day out. This is information that if you were to scrape my entire LinkedIn feed and collate it into a document, you would probably come close to actually understanding how we do our process and how we run our business, because all of it is in there, just in very condensed micro snippets of information,
bite-sized chunks.
And I was talking to somebody. So something else that you said, which is interesting. So I was talking to a colleague last week over dinner, and he set off on a similar journey at a similar time. He's slightly ahead of me, so I think a couple of months in front. And his business is doing exceptionally well. And one of the things he said was that every process that I do, I write it down. Excellent. Even if it's just 4 lines of do A, then B, then C, then D. Because at some point, he's going to need to decide how much value am I bringing to this process, and is there a more valuable use of my time? And then if he isn't bringing enough value, or there is more value elsewhere, then how does he fulfill that process? And he wants his business to be able to essentially operate entirely independently of him, apart from his thinking and the way that he understands the world. And that's how he intends to build it out and to bring new staff on board. Here's the guidebook. This is how you get. This is the SOP. And so very similar to my approach with running monthly board meetings, he's building in large organisational thinking from the outset.
Brilliant.
Literally from day one, because all that's going to happen is they're going to change. He's not going to find himself in a position in 12 months' time where he needs to start them from scratch and doesn't know where to begin, because none of his SOPs are actually that formalised, and he just sort of does these things. He's thinking about it right from the second that he needs to perform a series of tasks. I will document this series of tasks. Next time I need to do this series of tasks, I can go back to the document. If it changes, I change the document, but I have it documented.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Brilliant. It's something that even in our own business, we started so late in the day.
Yeah.
We have started it now. I think it's a challenge of a small business mindset when we started our business, and the fact that we're more creative than we are analytical as business owners. I'm speaking about myself. And as a creative, you get straight into the creative work because that's what we're passionate about. But we don't think about the process, the systems, and the SOPs. And as we have grown and meandered over the years, when you start to employ people and take people on, whether they're freelancers, contractors, or employees, it's like they've got to shadow you, or you've got to train them, and it takes a long time, it takes a lot of your time and energy to train and guide them. And when they still don't follow your process and systems, it's like, right, there's got to be a better way. And then when you actually do a deep dive to learn, you need a set of SOPs. You need an onboarding process, have some regular training, because even though SOPs are depending on how well they're written, can be very 1, 2, 3, 4, there's still a huge piece in culture that I think is invaluable with regards to how you deliver them SOPs. I have a 20-minute rule. So anyone in the business gets stuck on something, it doesn't matter what it is, don't spend more than 20 minutes on it. Mm-hmm. Because if you do a deep dive, I'm stuck on this, I've got to thrash this out, you can sometimes go down a rabbit hole and spend an hour, half a day. It's like that could be time wasted, because if you just ask somebody, they might have the answer for you straight away. Mm-hmm. So I always say it doesn't matter where we are in the structure of the business, it doesn't matter what we're doing. If we get stuck more than 20 minutes, ask a colleague, ask me, take it up, go to your line manager, come speak to me. And, it's possible that we can get to the answer a lot quicker. Mm. And it works well for us.
So you used a phrase there which I think is fascinating. There has to be a better way. Mm. And I talk about this a lot. And just before we started the recording, I said that I have essentially a peer mentoring arrangement with a very good friend of mine. She's a year into running her business. I'm 6 months into mine. We meet once a week and we thrash out each other's business problems. And basically she tells me everything that I've told her and vice versa. We give each other exactly the same advice. It's just really useful to have a sounding board. But we're both of the opinion that we've been through the career thing. We've seen how other businesses do what we do. There has to be a better way. Mm. And I've got a number of years on her, but the experience is exactly the same. I started as a junior, and you do the interview, what are you good at, what do you know, what's your experience like, and then you start on day one, and you literally get given a client list, and go and be an account manage these clients, okay, and then you're left to fly. There's an expectation that you will either sink or swim, and that has never changed in 30 years of moving between different organisations. Every time I've moved either through redundancy or through choice usually to get career progression. You walk into the role and you get handed the list, and the list is the list of clients. It's not the list of these are the approaches that we take and this is how we operate. And there's an expectation that you can just pick that up and run with it. And it deeply frustrates me. You see that in job adverts, must be able to hit the ground running. Okay, what equipment are you going to give me in order to be able to do? What tools are you going to allow me to take to the track so that I can run with that as fast as possible? And the expectation is that you find it out as you go along. find that fascinating. In such an analytical role as the one that I find myself in, client services is a highly commercial part of the business. The business analysis element of the forward planning and the road mapping element of it are highly analytical. They require data and standardization and processes, and yet none of those things generally seems to exist in my...
So
I'm happy to be proven wrong on this, but I've yet to see an agency that deals with that particularly efficiently. And I've hired multiple team members, multiple members of staff into my teams, and myself struggled to tell them how to get from A to Z, because I've not had the opportunity to put those SOPs down. I can see something in their eyes that I recognise, but we try and work it out together. And I think that's the main thing, is I know that how isolating and lonely and difficult and terrifying that can be, certainly as a junior account manager. But even as you move up into the sort of like the mid-range levels, and once you become an account director, you're expected to just know everything. So determined this time round that there has to be a better way of doing it. This is not... I will be hiring people in the next 6 to 12 months. The business is growing fast enough to support that. I need them to be able to hit the ground running, but it is incumbent on me to give them the tooling to be able to do that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Have you found the solution, or is that
I'm
work in progress?
documenting everything. Yeah. I mean, like literally everything right now is, whenever we have to do something, and again, this was, this comes out of part of that reporting cadence. How do we turn this from a one-person operation to a 100-person operation? What does that look like? And that is documented, that is detailed, and I'm filling in the blanks on the SOPs behind that. We have some core processes in place that I can be taken out of sooner rather than later. They're not dependent on me. They are all documented. The ones that are dependent on me will be documented as soon as I'm able to do so.
Many years ago, and you've just reminded me by saying that, I need to reread this. I read a book called The E-Myth by Michael Gerber.
Okay.
And he talks exactly about that. He has a framework where you draw out your org chart of the business, however your structure is, CEO, CFO, CMO, CTO, all of that good stuff, your leadership, your management, you right down to operations. You put your name in every box, because right at the beginning, you're doing every task. And just as you illustrated, as you start to recognize business is growing, my time is probably better spent doing more of this and doing less of this. All right, so you bring somebody new in that can do this task. You've already got the SOPs in place. Yeah. Here's your SOPs, get on with it. You have a bump, come back to me. So that came resonating straight to my mind. Michael Gerber, if you've not heard of it, he's the author.
I'll check that out. I wear multiple hats, but I could. I was going to say I can't keep all of that information in my head. I could, but
it's not needed.
It's
not efficient.
It's not efficient.
Yeah,
and it doesn't allow me to be objective about the information. It's always subjective. Absolutely. It's always based around how does it fit with all the other bits and pieces of information. If I've got it written down, and that written down state is this is the CFO's report, this is the client services report, this is operations, this is new business, and there's a clear line that runs through all of those. I can see really where the problems are, where the changes need to happen, whereas if it's all in my head, it's just a jumble.
There's a client of ours that we're working with up in the northwest. He's got he sells furniture online, and he's got a growing business year on year growth. And we were talking a couple of weeks back, and he was saying that he tells all his staff, if you have any problems, come and tell me, because I own the process. I've written the process, and if there's something wrong in the business, that problem's on me. So I don't mind you telling me that this is not right, because you're not going to get penalized for that. I am going to get penalized for that. So, I need to know that information. So that means he's got a really good, what feels like a really good culture in his business, where everybody will give him that open feedback, knowing that they're helping him with the business growth. I thought that was really great, because in line with that, all he's got to make sure, or all his employees need to make sure, is that they just do what their task is. As long as they stay within their box and hit their marks, and ideally go above and beyond, that's fine. But he owns the process. And I thought, that's a really good kind of attitude to build a healthy culture in the business as well.
I would go one step further on that. When I employ somebody, and I've done this in teams as much as anything, but when I employ somebody as Kingsbury, they will be given a remit. That remit will be clearly defined for them, but it's theirs to own.
Yeah.
So I'm always going to take exception to the word box. It's not a box. It is a framework. It's a skeleton. And so if they see a better way of doing things, it's theirs. Do it. Don't do it in isolation. Tell us, and we'll talk about how it fits into the wider organisation, and we'll make sure that if we have multiple people operating in different areas and with different remits, that it meshes correctly with those, and we'll and I think that's the correct way of approaching it. But if something is wrong, tell me how we fix it, and we will work to fix it. If something could be done better, tell me how. You're the expert by definition. This is your kingdom, your realm. Make it yours. I own the vision. You own the implementation.
Yeah.
So the vision dictates the current implementation. If that implementation needs to change, tell me, and we will find a way of making that change work, or making something work. I don't have all the answers. I recognise that. I'm old enough to be able to realise that I will never know everything. I'm good at what I'm good at, but there are. I do like the idea of never being the smartest person in the room. And if you're going to talk about that as an underlying principle behind how you work with people and how you engage with people and how you bring them into your business, you need to be prepared to put your money where your mouth is. Change the process. By all means, change. I mean, don't break everything in the process of doing it, but change the process if you can see a change that needs to happen. Yeah, 100%.
And I love that kind of sentiment of surround yourself with great people.
Yeah.
And for years and years, I've always said I want people who are better than me around me in the business, not weaker, or definitely not subservient. That goes into a different kind of mindset. But if you surround yourself with people that are better than you in their areas, their niche, whether it's a skill, whether it's to do with editing or strategic elements of it, it's only going to contribute into the overall vision of the business, and you're just going to get a better. The project is going to have more value. Is the long and short. So
yeah, that's actually quite an interesting point. I go back to what I said about the values that underpin everything that I'm doing. This idea of leadership, of authority. I wrestled with that word authority for a long time. And that statement actually has been written down for about 3 years, slightly longer. So COVID, 5 years. That statement, as a personal set of values, and then its application to Kingsbury came much later. But that word authority, I struggled with because I was concerned of the negative connotations of it. But it hasn't presented any problems, and people recognise the context that I present it in. And I'm not an authoritative leader. I'm a confident leader. I have an opinion. I'm happy to voice that opinion. But I also would like to think that I'm confident enough to be able to listen and to be told when I'm wrong or when there are other approaches. I've always worked on the basis that anybody who I'm working with, or who is on a team of mine, should ask for forgiveness rather than permission. And you give people are going to make mistakes. They just are. You have to accept that. So let people make mistakes. You don't learn from not making mistakes. And actually not making mistakes is too safe.
It's too safe.
We're not in the business of being safe. We're in the business of making very well-educated guesses about things, but we're not in the business of being safe. So we have to be able to be creative. We have to be able to rise to creative challenges. We have to be able to deal with risk and change at pace. And you can't do that if all you're interested in is a very narrow pathway. So I can't have people who can do that, whose minds are flexible enough to be able to respond in that way, and expect them to just do as they're told day in, day out, and for me to micromanage. And I don't want to micromanage them. Something, I say this to people quite regularly. I don't enjoy having to micromanage people. If I have to micromanage you, you're going to hate it nearly as much as I hate it. Because it's just going to be an unpleasant experience for both of us. Don't put me in the position where I have to do that. That's all I ask.
Knowing what you know now,
20
years ago, what would you have done differently?
I'd have done this earlier.
Yeah.
Like a lot earlier.
Oh, wow.
I wish I'd had the courage to do it earlier. If only because it would have failed. But I'd have learnt huge amounts in the process of doing it. I think the reason we're in such a strong position now is because it's the culmination of lots of other things, and I have this approach and framework that I've defined that allows me to make a series of decisions on a daily basis. So that works really well, and that has helped hugely. But yeah, I wish I'd had the facility to just do it a lot earlier. I talked to Simon Treen as part of the Working Hours podcast, and he's got a very specific sort of focus in what he talks about there. And one of the things he talked about was this idea of universal basic income, and I've come across that principle before on a number of occasions. I genuinely support that. I think as an idea, it helps, doesn't solve a lot of problems in society. It provides a backup for more people to be braver in their decision-making process. And I didn't have that bravery. I wish I'd had that bravery a lot earlier.
Which leads me on to the next question of what's your advice to school and university graduates, leavers that are moving into the world of careers or looking to start their own business?
Yeah, it's interesting. My stepson is 23 and he wrestled with this not so long ago. And he said, I want to do something I'm passionate about. I want to follow my passion. And I think that that's admirable, but I don't think that's actually necessarily the best way of doing things. When I was 23, I was passionate about very specific things, and there are elements of that still within me, but there's so much more that I've grown and learned and developed. I think the best advice I would give to somebody who was looking to start a career would be remain curious and be open. And again, I'll go back to my stepson George. He took an apprenticeship in hairdressing because that was what was available to him. He wanted to get out of school. He did a hairdressing apprenticeship. Didn't really have his heart in it. It was just a way of getting out of A-levels, but has found something in there that he didn't know existed and has found a passion within it that he didn't know he had, and is now doing exceptionally well at it, and has, you know, a really bright future ahead of him. So the first decision doesn't have to be the right decision. It just needs to be a decision. Don't sit on the fence. Commit to something. Do it. And put everything into it. Find out everything you can about it. Be prepared to say, this is wrong. You know, there's that. I think it's essentially a sales technique, isn't it? You know, but anything that you do, be prepared to fail fast and learn faster. But yeah, just whatever it is that you decide you want to do, commit to it 100% and learn. That's the best advice I could give, because if you're 20, you have 4 careers in you. And I don't mean 4 jobs, I mean 4 careers. You could go and do a 15-year career in hairdressing, and then you could do a 15-year career in business management or real estate, and a 15. These are 15 years is a good period of time.
Good chunk of time, absolutely.
You can do great things in that period. Making that decision doesn't dictate the next 60 years of your life. How you respond to that decision does. If you go at it half-assed, you will never make the most of it.
Of course.
Be prepared to fail, be prepared to pivot, but commit to it whilst you are there.
I love that. And I really resonate with fail fast. I say that probably a bit too often.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
because I apply that attitude to a lot of things in business. And let's work together, let's try it, let's carry on down this road, and let's fail fast. We'll know about it. If it's not going to work, we'll know about it really quick.
Yeah.
And why invest 3 years into something if we know in 3 weeks it's not going to work?
So it's one of the big underlying principles of what we do, is that the way that we position all of our outputs, all of our strategy, is very small, sharp, incremental change.
Yeah.
Over a long period of time. And I go back to what I said about, the planning is everything, plans are nothing. We set this out in a document, but we know, and that's why we do this long-term engagement where we help with the delivery. We know that plan is going to shift. We know that we don't know what we don't know. 2 years is a really long time. 80% of all digital transformation projects fail. They fail because you set out on day one with a goal to hit day 720, 30 or whatever, with a very specific set of outcomes. And so you're setting yourself up to fail by default.
Absolutely.
So don't do that. Say broadly, these are the objectives, not the outcomes. But this is an outcome, this is an outcome, this is an outcome, and set it out incrementally and set it out in stages, and be 100% prepared to understand when something isn't working and to change.
I think we're driven to have some very clear outcomes, because the accountants of the business want clarity on how much am I spending and what am I going to get for my money. But I'm not going to go down that rabbit hole today.
But so actually, yeah, and I think that it's probably it is a challenge in businesses and in the procurement cycle. Yeah. But if you think less about return on investment as a cash return and more about impact, then that actually becomes an easier conversation. Because the other way of framing it is, if we work incrementally, we can de-risk those outcomes as well.
Absolutely.
Really start paying attention, because if you're reducing risk on the spend, then everybody's happy.
As we time has flown by. It's 2 minutes to 3 o'clock.
Sorry.
No, it's fine. It's no need to apologize. It's been a really healthy conversation. Leads me to the final question. What's the dream?
Oh, that's a good question, isn't it? What is the dream? The purpose behind Kingsbury, for me, is not to make a huge amount of money. It's to create time. Time is more important to me than anything else. And that's something that's taken a long time to realise. And what I want to do with that time is more of what I am doing, which is to read and to learn and to think and to be enthusiastic about the things that I am passionate about in business and business management. The money allows that to take place. So I need to generate revenue. I need that to be profitable. But there's huge amounts of the business that I don't want to be doing on a day-to-day basis because they take away from the time that I spend doing the things that I actually love. And again, a good colleague of mine who is an advisor, consultant, when asked to describe his business model, said, "I read and I read and I think on behalf of people who don't have the time or the capacity to do it." I think that's really the dream, is to be able to quote Game of Thrones, which is I want to drink coffee and know things. But that's the goal for me. It's not to have $1 million in the bank. It's to have the capacity to be able to do what excites me, and what excites me is being able to learn and to continually develop and grow my thinking and to pass that on to other people.
Fantastic. In direct correlation to learning and growing and on that journey, next month or in the next 3 months, do share with me, and I want you to do this publicly, like on LinkedIn. This is the book I've read, or this is a new strategic thing that I've come across and learned, and I'm applying in the business, and I want to celebrate that with you. Okay. Because I think we don't celebrate enough. We only quite often talk about the sad or negative things in life. Yeah. And it also gives us an appreciation of how far forward we've come as well. And I'm not a drinking person, so I don't do champagne, but I can have a glass of orange juice or water or a coffee. Yep. But I'd like to still celebrate that with you, so we can make that record and see how we're growing and getting closer, or not even closer to a goal, but the journey is in the right direction. Yeah, no, I happily do that. I don't drink myself, so that'd be absolutely fine. Yeah, fantastic.